Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, guys, I surely appreciate you stopping in. Today, guys, we're going to talk about something not real easy, but I think there's a message behind it, so I wanted to share that with you. I appreciate over the last week everybody reaching out. It's been here in our little community of the Deep Creek community here in central Kentucky. It's been pretty tough. We experienced something that I wish no parent would ever have to experience. We lost a young man in our community last week, 11 years old. That was real close to me and a lot of others in the community. And he was kind of, the write-ups, the obituary and stuff that they did with him, had mentioned in there he was a old soul trapped in an 11-year-old body, and it couldn't be more true. The kind of the chain of events, guys, that we'll talk about here, and then, like I said, there's a message behind this, obviously, right? I was on client trips, obviously, running all over the country, and when I was home, this young man and his father and his little brother and sometimes his grandfather, they'd stop in when I was here. And I've become really close with them, over the going on 5 years that I've been here. And so I was home this last term, the start of this term, I guess you could say, right? And I was out shed hunting. I've got a spot out here. You guys have seen it on the videos. It's about a 4-acre spot that I do corn. And last year we tried to do the corn, and the Johnson grass took it over, and it ended up being a Johnson grass / corn stubble field, right? And so anyway, out there this year, took the Ranger around it, waited till now to shed hunt, and took the Ranger around it one time and just decided that it's like, man, I can't see anything from, here. And I walked it as well, and it was like, I'm going to call this young man's name was Benton. And I said, I'm going to call Benton. He's shed hunted with me before and over on my lease. And the kid's just a shed magnet, just loves being outdoors, loved everything to do with, hunting and fishing and everything. So I called his dad, and his dad was actually in Florida. And he said, I don't know where he's at. I said, need somebody to stand in the back of the Ranger, get a higher vantage point, if you will. And I called his dad, and he wasn't. His dad was in Florida fishing with some buddies and doing some work down there for a friend. And anyway, so he said, I'm not sure where he's at, but I'll reach out to him. So his grandfather actually called me a couple hours later. His dad must have called his grandfather, right? Left him a message, and so he called and said, hey, about 4 o'clock, he said he'll be free and I'll send him down. Okay. So they never showed up, and so I knew something came up. They have cattle and chores, farming, right? Chores first, play later. So I knew something came up, and I went to town, got something to eat, and I came back and pulled in the driveway, and a good friend of mine just down the road had called, and he had mentioned that, they had some bad news. So what had happened was this young man actually, that I'm speaking of, was trying to get chores done, like I said, right? And he jumped on his four-wheeler, his ATV, and his grandfather told him to jump in the Ranger with him. They had just weaned a calf, and they wanted to take some feed down to that calf, about a half a mile down the road from their home farm to their leased cattle ground, if you will, pasture ground. So he jumped in on his ATV, and his grandfather and his brother got behind them in the Ranger, and they pulled out on the road and taken, just like he's always done, no helmet on, and just cruising down the road. So there was no car coming or anything. Actually, another neighbor of mine was coming out with some hay, and he had seen him go by, and he said, it was the ATV, and Grandpa and the brother were right behind him, and went down around the road there, and he just, his grandfather was behind him and watched it happen, and he just kind of got over too far on the road and just kind of veered over, didn't, not a harsh movement or anything, and ended up hitting a culvert. And had some, scratches, and a pretty good scratch, I guess, on his head, and a laceration on his head, and his arm hurt or something like that, right? But anyway, to make a long story short, that he was talking to him and very coherent, and knew who the president was and what day it was and all that stuff, what his birthday was. And so they called the ambulance, and the ambulance ended up taking him about a mile up the road to a better spot where the chopper picked him up, Aeromed, and they shipped him to Lexington. So once at Lexington, I don't know all the fine details, but what happened is the young man did not make it. So as you can tell, he's pretty important to all of us. He's just one of those kids, like I was saying when I started this. He's a old soul trapped in a 11-year-old body. The kid, he could talk with anybody. He could talk the lingo of guns and hunting and fishing and farming. And there is a story, and I think this is true, that he actually had his own seat at the stockyards, that his grandfather, of course, and his dad were with him all the time up there. And, he's just chumming around with the old farmers. So it's a big loss, and we're getting through it as a community, but it's been a rough week. I'm not gonna lie to you. So when this happens, it brings life into perspective real quick. So the week is not over today. This afternoon they are having a visitation, and then tomorrow is the funeral. And then probably some community gatherings, right? So that's what's been going on. A lot of you have heard about it. A lot of folks have reached out through social media and text messages and calls, and I surely appreciate that. We are, as a community, like I said, going to stand behind these parents, his mom and his dad. And I tell you, like I said, I just wish there was I had made a post about this, and I never questioned the good Lord. I tried not to never question the good Lord, right? You always, as your faith grows and you get older, I guess you understand that there's a reason and a message behind everything. But boy, I struggle with this one, trying to find the message, right? And so, like I said, going into the next couple of days, doing a lot of thinking over the past week. As you're with the family and stories, and you're just trying to get through it together and trying to help them do as much as you can, trying to help that family, right? It's a horrible tragedy for anybody to experience. But one of the the things through stories and talking to each other, and we had to get together up at their house just a couple days after it happened. And so his dad, his mother, and his grandfather were all there when I got to that gathering that we had. One thing that all three of them had said to me all at once, and then throughout the evening, was, boy, he thought the world of you. So I don't say that to do any boasting of myself at all. Why I say that, guys, is this. I think in life in general, with business, family of our own, and we just all we're all in this. That old saying that you always hear, right? We're all in this big boat together. And I think what happens is we all, tuck our heads and do life, right? And we get through today and tackle tomorrow's hurdles and do our best. But do you really know who's watching? And by that I mean above and here on the ground. So I guess the message is here, guys, is this, right? Because there are eyes on us that sometimes we don't, we're always thinking about them, such as the story that I just told you. Obviously, I was thinking about this young man that day multiple times. And I remember laughing in the side-by-side thinking, he's just a good kid. I mean, him and his brother, their country has a chicken coop. I've told him that. And this young man shot a world-class whitetail in our community this year. Ended up being a 186-inch velvet buck at 11 years old. And there was we all shared trail camera pictures, and we're always talking about whitetails, obviously, and so I'll tell you a little story here. I had got a picture of a buck on the farm last year, and I could tell it was a pretty good buck, right? And it was just a blurry picture, and then a video. I got the tail end of the video, and I could see big kickers off his G2s, right? And I thought, who in the world is that? So of course I'm going back on trail camera pictures, right, and trying to figure out who this buck is that showed up in September. And I was pretty confident that I didn't have any pictures of him before. So I had sent this young man's dad a picture and texted him, and I said, hey, you haven't seen a buck around that looks anything like this, have you? I mean, they're a quarter mile from me, right? And almost touched, to be honest with you, almost touched in the back corner of the farm on the creek shelf. And he kind of laughed, and he said, yeah. He said, is it this one? He looked, of course, they had pictures of him. So I joked, I said, you guys been trying to hold something out on me, right? And they were just trying to, which I completely understand, they were just trying to get, so the pictures didn't float around the world, right? Well, anyway, a day or two later, his dad and his little brother stopped here, his dad, Benton, and his little brother. And I went out and I said, old Benton and Chucky, the little guy, I said, you guys have been trying to pull one over on Josh, right? Kind of keep one a secret. And he had the whole story. He told me where he was coming out and when he was there, and he's filling the feeders and the whole story, right? And so it was a joke, right? It was like, trying to pull one over on Josh, right? So anyway, make a long story short, a couple of weeks later, he ends up harvesting this buck, 11 years old, with during the early season, full velvet, and to kick off the bow season. And he brings it down. They called me and told me that he had shot him, right, and pulled in here with him, and I'll show you a picture here, and it's a giant, right? And the young man was just on cloud nine and came down here, and I walked out and I said, Benton Boone, what have you done? His middle name was Boone, so everybody in the community calls him Benton Boone. And so what have you done, right? So big hugs and high fives, and actually, to be honest with you, Brad Harper with Harper Growing Solutions was in camp, and he was like, holy crap, great deer. Buck of a lifetime. Little did we know at that time that would be his last. So like I said, guys, is this big message behind this, right? And the big message is this. When the family had said that to me about him thinking the world of me, it just really rattled me, because like I said, right, we never know all the eyes that are on us and what people really think, whether it's an 11-year-old kid or it's a neighbor that you've grown close to, a family member, an acquaintance, somebody that you've just met once or twice. I believe that we can all do better. So one of the things behind this, guys, is this, right? In this world, in this business, in this hunting community, let's all be honest with each other, right? It's a very male-dominated, chest-pumping, arrogance sport. It can be. And I think sometimes we lose the meaning. We forget the meaning, what this really is, who's watching us, what we're trying to accomplish, who is who we're leaving this to, right? Who's going to take this on? You can have a wall full of booners, and there's a lot of great hunters out there that are a lot better hunters than me, clients, friends of mine across the country. And I believe everyone that I have, had it by the grace of God, right, had the experience with or got to know, knows this message. But I think, sadly, maybe it takes something like this to bring communities together. We're all tight community to begin with, but boy, we're real tight now. And just looking at the big picture, right? Studying that big picture years down the road. And like I said, really looking at who is watching all your movements. But on the other side of it, there are a lot of things that, I look at Benton here, this young man. There's a lot of things that I could have taught him probably that obviously his dad knows, but he's here with being on the farm and some habitat improvements or why we do things the way we do things, trying to help them better their hunt. There's all these things, just as simple as giving him a Whitetail Driven Solutions shirt, something like that, right? So we can do better. Everyone's world is different. I realize that. But like I said, this situation really just opens your eyes to a bigger picture. And I just think that as a whole, I don't know of any other, there's racing communities. We were, our family was a racing family. We were surrounded by great, great people in the pits and at races every weekend during the winter, right? But I don't really know if I know of any other community that has the same values and understanding and mission that a hunting community, not just a local community, but a national community of hunters really has. I don't know of another community that has that big of a bond, right? So how tight is the bond, right? How big is the big picture? How clear is that big picture, right? So I share this with you today, guys. Like I said, not to boast at all about that the family had said about me at all. It just really opens your eyes as to what impact that you actually had on someone that you maybe didn't understand how big of a footprint was being left. So in closing, guys, I just encourage all of you to really study the big picture. Draw really, really close to your faith. And because sometimes, and in times of tragedy, maybe that's all we have left, right? So take all of this knowledge and all this learning that we have and pass it on to the next generation. And really, let's all just step back, I guess. I know I'm going to step back and just look at what is the meaning? How are my kids going to take? What are they going to take from this? What are they going to take from my love for this? For me, it's not only a love, right? A passion, it's a business. What are they going to take from that, and how are they going to use that in the future? So they, too, can take that and pass that on to someone that will be watching them, right? Because I'm sure my son, for example, just graduating boot camp, and I'm sure there's a lot of younger generation. I know there's a lot of older generation that is very proud of him, but I'm sure there's also a younger generation that's looking at him that respects him, right? So it's a chain, right? So let's not break that chain. So to the Lester family, we love you. We sure are going to support you. And Benton Boone, we're going to miss you, buddy. We are going to I'm going to put my thinking cap on here as the dust clears and we try to move forward and support that family, right? I'm going to really do some thinking here, guys. I think the message, one of the things that's been heavy on my heart, a lot of things, right? But one of the things that has been heavy on my heart and my mind is trying to figure out a way to do a, we'll call it foundation. I don't, there's no money in the world that's going to cure this for the family, right? So I think it's more than that. I think I'm looking at trying to do a, trying to do a situation that maybe we do a foundation and we do a hunt giveaway every year, or we do product giveaways, or we try to take, a kid that maybe is watching all of us, right? Do some nominations or something like that, and try to take somebody out and enjoy God's creation and pass this on. So I don't know where that is yet right now, but it's been heavy on my mind, and with the family's permission, of course, I think we're going to try to start. We're going to try to start something. So if you guys have any experience with this, anybody watching has any experience with these foundations or doing any of this, feel free to reach out to me. And maybe you already have an organization that could, we could tie to this and help out to make it all, tie together. So surely appreciate your support, guys. Not an easy video to make, but a very important one, I think, with a lot of different messages that I think will resonate with a lot of different people. But at the end of the day, let's all do better, and let's all grow our faith for the Lord. And please keep this family close to your hearts and raise them up in prayer. So we're actually leaving this weekend and on the road, and we'll be bringing a lot more videos to you guys here. But that's the reason there's been a gap in things here, guys. So, and I'm sure you all understand that. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Hug your loved ones. Say your prayers. Let's all be better. Let's all look at that big, clear picture. And we'll see you on the next videos. Thanks, guys.